The Republican rebellion keeps growing over some of the president's biggest priorities. Tonight, not only did GOP leaders scrap funding for his prized White House ballroom out of their immigration package, they're also threatening to kill his nearly $1.8 billion slush fund for his allies, and for good.
I think even DOJ knows that this was a bad idea, and what we need to do is provide finality. We got to either eliminate it, streamline it, guardrail it. It can't go in its current form, and if that's the only choice we should have, we should eradicate it.
Tillis says that he plans to introduce an amendment that would permanently shut down the fund by tying it to that massive immigration bill. But the president continues to fight for the fund, and he refuses to let the issue go.
Is the $1.8 billion DOJ fund dead, or is it on hold?
It's, I'd have to ask the lawyers, I don't know. The weaponization fund, as far as I'm concerned, was a beautiful thing. It was something I didn't make it, but I heard that, I thought that was the greatest thing.
So not only is he vigorously defending this weaponization fund, but I just also want to remind people that even though DOJ has said they are not moving forward with it, they refuse to actually put that in writing, which is why Republicans are pushing back and saying we might have to do something about that.
I'm so glad to see this. I'm so glad to see them tank the weaponization fund, which was so gross. I mean, the idea that a person who beat up a cop could get compensation for that just disgusts me. And I'm so glad to see them not funding the ballroom. Like, as we said before, Americans are hurting. It's not the time to be doing these kinds of projects and asking the American taxpayer to pay for it. So good on the Republicans for saying, look, this stuff is not consistent with our values right now.
Let me play, actually, on the ballroom, let me just play what Scott Bessent said about the ballroom when he was questioned today.
There is no cost to the American people. If there is a new bill for the ballroom, the decorative part of the ballroom is privately funded, and everything that you were talking about.
The president requested $1 billion for the White House ballroom in our budget. He has spent $45 million on a military birthday parade. So
look, it goes on outside my office every day. I've watched it progress, and it is national security matters that the $1 billion is for.
That's ridiculous, and I think you know it.
National security matters. Meanwhile, just to point out, they're building an outdoor stadium outside the White House that is open air, where the president is supposed to attend a UFC game at in a couple of months. Fight, excuse me.
You were about to just get roasted on that. I think that in your read, I think that it highlighted the fundamental problem and disconnect with Donald Trump and the rest of the American public at whole, and MAGA and the rest of the American public. You outlined his priorities. And right now his priorities are the little water thing in front of the Washington Monument.
Reflecting pool.
The reflecting pool or whatever. And then his other priority is a ballroom. And then his other priority is a slush fund.
Don't forget the arch.
Oh, and the arch. And then you have the UFC stadium he's building. Like, none of that drives down prices. None of that keeps Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. None of that is actually the eye on the ball of what you want the president of the United States to be doing. And for people who say you didn't vote for this, yes, you did. You knew this man had no leadership capability whatsoever when you elected him again. And this is what you get. You get his top 5 priorities as he sits here today. He had a whole diagram up with the little swimming pool in the front yard. And nothing that he does can actually improve the quality of life for most average Americans. Those are his top 5 priorities.
Yeah, but it's been an astounding level of tone deafness, week after week, event after event, boondoggle after boondoggle, as the American people are having such a hard time making ends meet. It's just, it's the convergence of the two things. The frivolity that's going on, and just the frivolity. F-R-I-V-O-I.
Don't use those big words, right?
I know, I can't use it. Come on. The let them eat cake attitude going on frivolous projects on this side, on the White House side, on the Trump side, the grift, the family enrichment. It's one thing after another, the $40 million documentary by
Jason,
Melania.
Jason, you're shaking your head. Why are you
while
shaking?
people can't pay for gas.
Why are you shaking your head?
Because it's an exaggerated reaction to this. This idea that this is like the biggest priority is obviously not true. Iran is his biggest
He
priority.
walks around.
The
He
fact that
walks
he's
around
talking
with
about
like a
hold on.
Okay, wait, hold
The
on.
fact that
Let
he is
me ask you a question, though.
responding to-
Because he called that Oval Office impromptu press conference today. And can you tell me why he did?
Well, he talked to a bunch of reporters,
why?
which is something
but
that
why?
is kind
What
of
was
important.
What was the top issue on his mind that caused him to
The
bring
swim- the swimming
This
pool.
is the idea
It
that
was,
this is the
it was
top.
because he
Hold on,
wanted to
Abby.
show
Do you
the
believe-
reporters a chart that, by the way, he had shown them before of the size of the reflecting pool compared to skyscrapers.
Yes, I'm
Why?
not moved by the fact
mean,
that the
I'm
guy
sorry,
who's
but-
interested and obsessed with real estate and projects is actually talking about this. This idea,
So
however,
you acknowledge that he's obsessed with real estate and projects.
I think that is clearly
that
something that
is-
he's interested in. I'm not arguing that he's not interested in this. I am, however, arguing that it's not his top priority. That is the kind of exaggerated reaction that I do think ends up dismissing legitimate concerns that you raise, specifically on
going
Iran.
back to
But you can talk about something without it being your number one priority.
Sarah.
We have to acknowledge that.
I will say, going back to legitimate concerns then, I do want to touch on something that Batya mentioned, which was the January 6th $1.8 billion slush fund, and how we know that if that does end up happening, that money could potentially go to January 6th rioters. And that is something that I have been encouraged to see Republicans actually finding their backbone and pushing back on and saying, no, we don't want to see this slush fund happen. And
It's
that,
dead.
But he says it's not.
No, he
And
didn't.
said
He did not say it's not
said
dead.
Today,
he just literally didn't use the words.
He said,
it is dead.
He said, I love
said
it.
That it
He
was
talked
killed
all
by
about
the
January
courts.
6th and how his crowd sizes and how it was a day of
He
love
said it
and
was killed by the
celebration.
courts. You
And
had Todd
friendship.
Lynch say
He
that
said
it was.
people were crying.
But that was
No, but
his
he's gonna
acknowledgement
do
that it
everything
is
in his
dead.
power to make it happen because he
I'm not-
does
It's not
want to
gonna
see
happen.
his.
But
He
we
does
know
want
it's
to
not
I'm
see.
not
going to
trying
happen.
to.
Well-
I don't need a Ouija board to try to figure out what Trump means or what he doesn't mean. The courts didn't kill it. So the issue now for Republicans is going to be what are they going to do about it? And some of them are actually considering passing legislation that would make it permanent, that slush fund never exists. I also want to just point out one other thing. The Bill Pulte thing at DNI, choosing the director of national intelligence who has zero qualifications, that seems to be like the next frontier for where Republicans are going to really start to lose it on this administration in terms of the pushback.
He has one qualification, which is blind loyalty. So I know that you're. So that's exactly what Trump wants, though, in
And
that
it's
role.
more-
He
and
doesn't
it's-
care about national security credentials, doesn't care that the guy doesn't have any experience in intelligence, has never had a security clearance, no geopolitical connections, as far as I know. But that is the one thing that he wants. And he wants someone in that role to go after his perceived political enemies. We saw him do it with Tulsi Gabbard as well. And obviously now she is left. And so he wants to fill that vacancy with someone who will be willing to carry those things out.
The very practical political problem goes back to something that Abby said earlier, which is that you now have Cornyn. You now have Cornyn. You now have Cassidy. You now have Tillis. You have these individuals who kind of have this unbridled sense
Well,
of.
you do have Thune, too, because he's not a fan of Bill Pulte.
Well, I mean, actually, that's
He's
what
not
I was
leaving
thinking
Congress,
about.
but he's also not a fan.
I have a feeling that Bill Pulte is going to have a rough ride to getting that DNI spot.
And it's not just the loyalty, it's the second part that you mentioned is the vindictiveness. He has proven himself to be this, an operative, a Trump toady who will not only be loyal, but will use government against Trump's enemies, right? We saw what he did with the housing agencies and Letitia James, and that's why he wants him there. But also remember, this DNI position, it was created after 9/11. Some of these senators that are still there are old and were there when these laws were created, which was, I remember the first DNI officer. It was John Negroponte, an intelligence officer, somebody with impeccable credentials. So I think even for Republicans, it is galling that we would give this DNI position to somebody who is an unqualified, vindictive, Trump bootlicker.
And we've seen Trump abuse the system with making them an acting person as well.
Next for us, are Democrats putting too much weight in pure